If you've been anywhere on Poppy Playtime, YouTube, or Reddit, or any other platform, you've probably seen this character floating around all the time. And as I'm sure you probably know, she goes by the name of Daisy the Flower. However, why in the world is everybody talking about this new character, and why do some people even theorize she could be in the next very highly awaited third chapter coming out next year? Well, first, let's get some background on the character Daisy. So first off, Daisy is classified as a rejected toy, which among many other different toys we see around the factory means she wasn't ever actually produced inside of Playtime Co. We could see from a rejected paper that the reason she was denied was because she was too scary for young children, and that children and test audiences cried during Daisy's performance. Now, what's interesting about Daisy and her character is that she's classified as a marionette, meaning that she was some sort of puppet, and based on the fact that a rejected paper referred to her as a performance, that means she was most likely used for some sort of show inside of Playtime Co. In fact, we can expand on this by going back into the trailer for the second chapter, because we can see that Daisy was originally the antagonist inside of Musical Memory. And also, of all the rejected toys, she has a surprising amount of development, having, as we'll talk about in a minute, her own cardboard cutout and multiple different appearances throughout the chapter, leading people to believing that she may have some sort of outside purpose that we haven't quite discovered yet. And that brings up the main theory of this video, suggesting that Daisy the Flower may not just be prevalent in the future of the game, but she could potentially be one of the biggest characters in the factory, being partnered with names like Huggy Wuggy and Mommy Longlegs as her very own main antagonist. So here's the basis for this Daisy in Chapter 3 theory. The only clues we have to suggest what Chapter 3 will contain outside of pure speculation would of course be the now recurring Chapter 3 teaser. And if you've watched my or anybody's own theory videos, people have been suggesting that based on the fact that we see the character Brawn the Dinosaur laying along inside of the teaser along with the gas mask matching his color scheme, people think he will probably be the main antagonist of Chapter 3. However, as the famous MatPat would point out in his Chapter 3 trailer breakdown, the gas mask seems to be intentionally misleading the player by hinting that it could be Brawn the Dinosaur, when in all reality the gas mask more closely resembles kids' war gas masks used in real life that match the mold more perfectly. So if Brawn the Dinosaur isn't the Chapter 3 main antagonist, that then opens up the question of who the main antagonist will actually be. And this is when Daisy the Flower starts to come in. The theme of this third chapter clearly seems to be something relating to this gas mask and something relating to gas particles. We can even see that there's some sort of red gas emitted inside of the teaser thumbnail itself, confirming this exact thing. So how does this relate to Daisy? Well, if it wasn't obvious, Daisy herself is a flower. More specifically, a daisy. And when you think of a daisy, you may think of things like its white and yellow visual appearance, and also most notably, you probably think of smells or fumes, because daisies symbolize beauty and are often used on perfume bottles and other imagery to represent their beautiful smell, which on a side note is really weird since if you've ever actually smelled a daisy, they don't really smell like anything, but I digress. Anyway, with that being said, Daisy herself symbolizes flowers and their scents like other things throughout the game, including even Poppy herself. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that with the theme of Chapter 3 already seeming like it's going to be related with experimentation and more specifically gases in the air, of all people that could frontline this chapter, Daisy would be an amazing addition. Also, let's look at her in her own description. As mentioned, she was rejected as a toy because she was apparently horrifying towards the kids, which if I'm being honest sounds like a perfect match for the Chapter 3 antagonist, since it's pretty par for the course for Playtime Co to throw the scariest versions of all the toys our way as we explore the factory, and Daisy seems to fit that mold. And also, despite what you may think, she is actually a pretty large character as well. If we look at the still image where she shows up in Musical Memory, we can see her size, and she actually looks intimidatingly big in her marionette form. But the biggest piece of evidence that makes it seem pretty clear that above all characters she's going to be the main Chapter 3 antagonist would be her insane amount of appearances throughout the game, unlike any other character we've ever seen. In Chapter 1 of Poppy Playtime, there were 7 established characters that we know about: Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, Cat Bee, Brawn the Dinosaur, Candy Cat, Poppy, and Boogie Bot. They all were introduced and appeared around the chapter through posters and whatnot, and notably they also continue appearances in the second chapter, most notably popping up on cardboard cutouts where we actually get full-blown backstory on their personality with real voices backing them. However, among all the main characters of chapter 1, we also see some of the newer, bigger characters who show up in the second chapter as well. For example, Mommy Longlegs has her own cardboard cutout, Bunzo Bunny does, PJ Pugapillar does, and then there's Daisy, some random rejected toy with absolutely no appearances inside of the game but managed to get an entire cardboard cutout of her own. Clearly, she has to have some sort of greater purpose than the rest of the rejected toys, right? But anyway, moving on from the cardboard cutouts, Daisy has even more appearances through the art in the game, including one poster with PJ Pugapillar and another poster of her own promoting recycling. Finally, the biggest piece of evidence that suggests her importance is that if we look on Twitter, we could see some of the different animations being done throughout the game behind the scenes. And one of the beta animations includes a full-blown idle animation for Daisy herself, presumably meant to be used when she was supposed to be in musical memory. So this then begs the question, why does she appear so much in the game? Well, it might be easy to write it off as, oh, she was supposed to be a side character for musical memory that was eventually cut in favor of Bunzo Bunny. But if that was the case, why in the world was she replaced? We know it had to be a pretty late decision since she has so many in-game appearances compared to even Bunzo Bunny himself. But once again, where did she go? Well, the answer seems to be pretty simple to me. Daisy the Flower is supposed to have some major appearance in the game later on that was supposed to potentially be teased inside of chapter 2, similar to what we saw with Kissy Missy where she was teased throughout posters before she ever even showed up in the game. However, for whatever reason, they decided to change course and remove her from the game, at least for now. If I had to take a Hail Mary guess as to why they removed her, my guess would be because they made the last minute decision that Mommy Longlegs was going to kill all the characters after we beat them in the minigames. Because if you didn't know, after we beat Bunzo Bunny and the Huggy Buddies in their game modes, we actually see them killed by Mommy Longlegs in the future, making it clear that we won't be seeing them ever again. And I'm confident this decision was made late into the game's development because unlike the other two, we don't ever see PJ Pugapillar get killed by Mommy Longlegs for whatever reason. And that's probably because right before the game release, they had entirely redesigned him from Cassie Cutie Pillar in the trailer to the PJ we all know and love in the final game. Which means they probably didn't have enough time to make a scene where he's killed by Mommy Longlegs, so they just left it how it was. And this is probably also around the same time they decided to replace Daisy the Flower with Bunzo Bunny, because they wanted to save the more important characters like Daisy for later chapters before killing her. And also, it seems like a no-brainer that they would include Daisy inside of the game more. She's already an incredibly popular character on places like YouTube where people make mods and animations where she appears all the time. And in fact, Zamination, one of the animation channels who actually created the real Poppy Playtime, even they posted their very own animations with Daisy inside, so that has to mean that she has some sort of deeper importance throughout the game. But then again, this exists on that same channel, so I might be stretching a bit too far. Daisy would definitely be a really cool dynamic shift for Poppy Playtime though, and I've even seen people bringing up some concepts that maybe there could be some lore relating to her and why she ended up getting rejected. You know, some Bite of 87 type stuff where something went terribly wrong. But anyway, do you guys think that Daisy will actually show up in chapter 3? Or was she really just a scrapped character that has no purpose outside of that? I don't know, I think she would be one of the coolest characters if she was added, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see in chapter 3.